From Einmal Productions, this is episode 297 of Singletrack, presented by Electric Cable Car. Alright, here is what's happening at Electric Cable Car. I posted yet another spreadsheet tracking which UTMB event sells out, how fast, where, and what race. Kind of fun to track and project the UTMB's group's next moves. Speaking of which, just today they announced a brand new partnership with my favorite watch brand, Zunto. Kind of a big deal. Next, I'll take a look at one of America's most popular trail running events, the Black Canyon Ultras, which happened last weekend. I see how they fare and compare when it comes to prize money and support for elite runners. Lastly, I want to point you to an incredible comment by Pers Jürgen, the race director of Kullerman and the UTMB event in Sweden. Find it all on electriccablecar.com. Stay up to date with everything that's happening in our sport of trail and mountain running. Okay, one thing that's definitely happening and also hot right now is the Trail Running Film Festival's upcoming Global Tour 2024 presented by Brooks. Yes, we already have over 50 hosts signed up from all over the world who are excited to bring our incredible selection of films to your community. Check the website trailfilmfest.com to see if we're coming to your town. And if not, and you want to host, do reach out to me and let's make this happen. Trailfilmfest.com has all the info. Go there. All right, Marcel is back, and I'm stoked. A lot has happened in his life over the past few months, and I'm very excited we will sit down with him to catch up and hear in a very personal, honest conversation about the realities of life, what's really important, and how one navigates the ups and downs, especially as an elite runner who has the limelight constantly shining on them. There's more. We talk shoes, we talk sky running, and of course, UTMB. But enough for me. Here's Marcel. This is Singletrack, and Marcel is back on the horn, as they say. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, pleasure.
As you said, we won't run out of things to talk about. We've got lots to talk about, and we should start with where you're currently at now for the recording.
Yes, I'm currently in the center of the beautiful Canary Islands, Gran Canaria, which is in February, just like this perfect location to be here, to get away from the Central European winter a little bit, soak in a little bit of sun, and teach the legs how to run downhill again. Obviously, with all the snow around in Innsbruck where I live, I either skimo or run on the flats, and now running on the trails again has been a little bit, I don't want to say tricky, but you feel the legs at the end of the day. I want to say, yeah.
It's you have to relearn that. So most Europeans who live in the Alps, they usually take their winter training and really switch to skis and skimos and stuff. So for you, sort of breaking out of this and actually hitting the trails much sooner than most others is a little bit of a different strategy. Is this meant to be a strategic decision, or are you just saying, hey, I like the sun?
I mean, I love to enjoy life. So I would say it's been very strategic, the decision to come here and soak in a little bit of sun. But yeah, the winter training has been good. My coach and I feel like we can ramp up the mileage on like the running mileage. So yeah, we'll do this a little bit. I'll be running Trans Gran Canaria, the new 46K course here. And then, I mean, I love skimo. I love ski mountaineering. So if everything goes well and winter is as it used to be, then I'll be back on skis for some more weeks in March.
Okay, perfect. So I mean, we kind of jumped right in, but we probably should like kind of fall back a little bit. You kind of had a challenging winter, right? I mean, there was a lot going on, and a lot didn't go according to plan.
Yeah, that's right.
You had planned to run race down in Cape Town, and that whole thing went completely sideways. Do you want to talk about that, or should we rather forget about it and move on?
No, I guess it's a big part of everything. So now we can talk about it. Yeah, just like the last 2 years, I went to Cape Town at the end of the European trail season. Again, very strategic decision, trying to enjoy life as much as I can, and of course also getting the races in and so on. So I went there a little bit earlier than I used to, because I wanted to give this new race for me, a shot, which is the Otter Trail, 6 hours by car north of Cape Town in this beautiful national park called Tsitsikamma. Beautiful. And wanted to race this race, which I did. Most beautiful experience. So good. You have river crossings, like 80 meters wide, the ocean pushing into that river, you getting like all the seawater waves in your face, and you run on this beautiful path, always close to the coast, with drops into the, let me say, jungle, and then you go back and run a little bit on the beach, and then another river crossing, and so it goes on for just over 40k. So that was amazing. That was awesome.
And the finish line is on this boardwalk right on a lake or something like that, right?
Yes, yeah. There's another river crossing, which basically constitutes the finish line. So you run on these boards, and then you make it to the finish line. And some then directly jump into the water right after. Or Johan van Herden, the guy who finished third, a good friend of mine, he actually jumped purposely jumped off the boardwalk before he even finished, which made for some very funny videos and photos. Didn't stop him from finish ahead of me still. I guess his little performance cost him 20 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever. Finished fourth there, and again just had the most amazing time. It's really hard to enter into that race just because it's this national park, and bibs are very strictly limited. But if you ever get a chance, you, Matthias, and everyone listening today, try to go to this race and just enjoy yourself.
We have to definitely link the race website in the show notes, because it's a very, very unique race in a very unique location and stuff. It's definitely worth checking out.
Yes, please add the link to the show notes. And then so that was the start of my 2023 Cape Town experience. And then we went back to Cape Town. A couple of friends of mine were around, Robbie Simpson, with whom I shared a house there, and another good friend of mine. So it's been all pretty good. And then things went very much sideways with my dad. So I had to go home and take care of the family a lot. But kept running, just as a, not so much for the first time in a long time, not so much for the purpose of getting stronger, but for the purpose of staying mentally healthy, I would say, which worked, but also had the very nice side effect of me being still in a very good shape. And I discussed with my family and sponsors and everyone that despite being somewhat strange in my mind, firstly, that it was a good idea to actually fly back to Cape Town for what I had trained basically all year, which was the Ultra Trail Cape Town 100K. I hadn't been running 100Ks in a long time. I've finished 9 or 8 of them. But yeah, I haven't really ran those in a long time. So I was really, really excited to run on this beautiful course in this beautiful city. So I flew back, and like after I thought I took the courageous but very mentally demanding way of actually going back and actually committing to this 100K race despite not everything going as my family had hoped. I get off the plane. I'm very excited to be back in Cape Town. I lace up my running shoes. I go for a run, and I have this very, very bad fall. I try to like catch myself with my hands. Very unsuccessful because I basically like fell 6 or 7 stairs or whatever. Like really, really hard on this like very rocky, dirty kind of trail. Dusty and everything. So I fall. I try to like hold my fall with my hands. My elbow kind of like gives in. I land very, very badly on my face, which was my biggest concern at first, because I thought like, oh no, so this was too much of a head impact. I made like some calculations in my head. I tried to remember luckily I did remember like what day it was, what my name was, and so on. So I think I wasn't concussed. Continued checking, lots of blood on my leg, which just was like mainly sweat and just a little bit of blood. But then I get up and then like, oh damn, like I can't move my arm. Yeah, so I mean, fast forward a long time. I go to the hospital. I have like a very like strange experience at the hospital. But at the end of the day, beginning of the next day, I find out that my arm, my radial head is broken. There's a fracture in it. So I get this big ass cast going all the way from my fingers to my shoulder, really not being able to move at all, or putting on clothes or doing things that you want to do. Obviously, no running with that cast on. Yeah, so I had to like cancel the UTCT, but they put off the cast after 5 days, because they say if you don't get your range of movement back now, you never will. So the doc tells me to move it as much as I can without pain. Of course, every trail runner, how does he pick up those lines? If you're not in pain, go run as much as you can, right? Obviously. Not on trails though, because he says if I fall on it, like if I land on my hands again, I probably mess up the bone so that we will never be able to fix it again. So I stay away from the trails a little bit, and run on the roads, which, you know, still running, not my favorite kind of running, but it's still running. And yeah, luckily even find on the day that was supposed to be race day for me, I find a 16K road race in Cape Town and run this instead, and cheer on the whole Adidas Terrex team running the 35, the 55, the 100K, and the whole trail community in Cape Town. I crew some friends of mine, and just be around the trails in that way, and participate in the event in this way, which was also nice. I still wished I could have run those beautiful trails myself, but yeah, I was still a part of it, and made the best out of my stay in Cape Town.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing all of this. I'm not trying to dig in and sort of make you relive these tough moments, but I do think it's important that we allow ourselves to be real, right? That we allow ourselves to acknowledge that we, especially in the times of social media where we're sort of encouraged to always only share the perfect,
Yeah.
happy, clappy, beautiful things, right? That we sort of acknowledge that life sometimes does give us a shit show to deal with. And just because you're a pro runner that gets to fly around the world and get to join these races doesn't mean that you have to also deal with regular in real things. And so I appreciate your honesty in sharing these things. And I'm glad to hear that you're back out running and that you find also that mental refreshment and rejuvenation while you're out running, right? That this doesn't
Yeah.
because it's tough. You're as an athlete, you put so much of your identity into running, and if you sort of come to this point of like, I can't run right now, right? That almost feels existential. That feels like, who am I, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes and no. I mean, yeah. Um, your body and mind definitely miss it, and yes, it's a huge part of my identity. But in times like this, and just let me say that, like, one of the worst things a son has to go through at some point of his life happened. The hell with it. Like, I've it's been a couple of weeks. So my dad died.
Mhm.
I guess you've guessed it anyway. So he died, and in times like these, when you're very close with your dad, and like your family is like a very, like a family that like holds together, and everyone loves each other. So for a family like this, for my family, of course, it was a very, very hard time. Him dying, not even making it to his 60th birthday. Um,
Mhm.
um, but what I'm trying to say is, I guess, that yes, a big part of my identity is being a runner, but even more so, I try to be a son, to not only to my dad, but also to my mother, who could really like need my shoulder, and my sister, and my grandma, and everyone else. And yeah, this is more important than being a competitor, right? But
Mhm.
it never stopped me being a runner, because like I said, it just felt really good for me. For me, it was a way to be more okay with the whole situation as it was.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely.
And
No, I
then
hear
and
you.
then I actually wanted to say something else about this social media thing that you said earlier. Because yes, like we tend to share only the good moments and the happy faces and the beautiful pictures and so on. But I actually, and now in retro perspective, I'm like, no, like I don't have to do shit, But when I left Cape Town, I felt the need to tell all my followers who were expecting me to run Ultra Trail Cape Town, to tell, guys, I'm actually leaving Cape Town 5 or 6 weeks earlier than I thought. Please don't ask why. This is basically all I said in this one story, and there were all different kinds of reactions. So some just like sent like a heart, or just offered to hear me out whenever I wanted to talk to some. And then there were others, and I've been so clear, like, listen, this happened. Please don't ask what exactly it is, but I'm leaving. And then like people, like not even people that they come back to you like, what happened? Do you have like COVID?
Mhm.
And like, first of all, please, I asked you like not to make
Dig.
talk about
Mhm.
it. And
Mhm. Mhm.
second, do you really think like, and like I'm happy for all of my followers, and I want everyone to be happy all the time. I was really shocked that like some people think like COVID is like this horrible, horrible thing, maybe the most horrible thing that can happen to you as an athlete,
Mhm.
because it will stop you to perform at this event that you've been training for, like, and it ties back to what you said. We are like, none of us, we're not machines or high performance athletes, like, who only have things related in their life related to running. We also have like these normal things, like family members not doing well, and all these things. And of course, like, this is so much worse than running than COVID, and hinders you for such a longer time from running well than like a virus as COVID would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It it is a super difficult situation that you sort of find yourself in, and especially with social media, because in some respect it is your account, right? I mean, you need the account for your sponsors, and you enjoy the connection and to be able to share most of the time. But how do you sort of take all of this then? And because in some respects you become a brand, you become a something that is beyond of who you are as a person, right? People think they know you. People think they have the right to know what's going on in your life, right? And it's a really, really challenging situation that we haven't sort of solved on what the right way of handling this is, right? Because in some respects, it's fun to have this controlled, you control this medium, and you can share the excitement in the moment when things go well, right? Where you don't just wait for your sponsor to share a couple pictures with your results, or the official media picking it up, right? To be able to sort of have this immediate connection is fantastic. But how do you sort of treat this then in the moment when you sort of have to just withdraw from it because nobody else is going to pick it up for you, right? And you feel like you owe your followers something, at the same time you owe them nothing, right? I mean, if you would go dark for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, so be it, right?
No, exactly.
It's a really difficult situation for you in you, all of you athletes, because in some respects you don't want to just be an influencer, right? You want to be an athlete. You want to perform and run trails and, share this excitement of trail running and racing. But there's the side part where you sort of have to manage this community, and it becomes a huge, difficult thing to navigate.
Yeah. And no, I totally agree. And I guess sometimes it's not only like athletes or influencers feeling like the need to do this and that, but like such a like wider part of the population also thinking that they have to do this and that, and no, like, you don't have to do anything. And like, we're still like all of us, we're humans, and if we just remember that, I think then it also becomes much easier for everyone to handle these kind of situations, I guess.
Yeah, that's sort of that weird thing that behind these accounts that we follow, and we demand them to give us updates on how great the trails are and where the next racing and stuff, right? And making us feel good, right? I mean, we want an Instagram feed that makes us feel good,
right?
And right, and so we demand something from you, but at the same time, it's not performative. This is your real life. You're not just creating fake little storylines. You don't have a production team that says, hey, today it's Monday. Every Monday we should share a workout video or something, right? I mean, you share in the moment, and you have to come up and you allow people into your life. And that can be sometimes inappropriate. It can be too much. It can be, you have to sort of allow yourself a barrier, right? And I think you have the right to pull back and have the right to be honest, and managing all of this without exploding, right? Without like, I mean, you express frustration at some people asking about what's going on and stuff. And yeah, it's a really fascinating and challenging sort of road to navigate. And
Yeah.
I totally understand that you are sort of asking yourself, how to do this, and also asking for space from your followers, right? There is sort of an important reminder that there's a real person behind all of this.
Yeah, and I think it's, I mean, on the flip side, also, like if we allow, and we all do to a certain extent, as you said, we all give like this insight into our lives, then I think all of us should also show both sides, because
Hmm.
it's also unhealthy for the consumers of social media, to only see, all these great athletes traveling to beautiful islands of Gran Canaria or running here and there in Cape Town and whatnot, and winning races and having all these beautiful sponsored deals and blah blah blah. But again, like this is not all, and there's so much more to it, and no one should feel bad or left behind or whatever just because he doesn't go to the Canary Islands for 4 weeks of the year, whatever, like, because that's not all to my life, that's not all to, not even to Kilian's life or whatever, like we all have to work, we all have our fears, we all have our baggage to carry around, and that is completely independent to your UTMB index or whatever,
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Very true. Well, let's switch subjects a little bit. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you are studying and working on, which is a big part of your life, which you let out a little bit on social media, but you're so much more than an athlete, right? I mean, there's a big there's a big part of your life where you are a student, where you're researching.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. So I mean, I like, before I was a real athlete, even I started working for Adidas. That was 2012, right after I finished or graduated from high school, and I became a dual student for Adidas, meaning I worked for Adidas, but also went to university while gaining some work experience, and sooner or later, obviously, found my way to the product management team of Adidas Terrex, the guys and girls creating outdoor gear for all of us. And yeah, I was super much enjoying that life in Herzogenaurach, the very center of Germany, for many years. But then at some point, that was now pretty much exactly 3 years ago, decided that is my dream job, to develop trail running shoes and making sure that we all have something to enjoy the sport that we love the most with. But I really need to live in the mountains myself, which unfortunately came with the decision to quit my job at Adidas, but was lucky enough that a marketing agency that Adidas works with was looking for a project manager to work on Adidas outdoor projects, and they thought I was the perfect guy for this job, and been working in this job ever since. And my former colleagues are now my clients, let's say, but we have a very a very strong relationship. So it doesn't necessarily feel like you are agency, we are client. It's much more of a collaborative approach. So I still get to work on many things with Adidas Terrex. For example, if you go to the Adidas Terrex retail store in Chamonix, that had that opened a little bit over 1 year ago. Then you will see one of my projects that I've been working on. So we like decorated the place. We put the furniture in place. I hired 2 guys operate the store on site. We still do the in-store communication and a little bit of the activation around the store. We had like people lining up crazily during UTMB week, trying to get their hands on the new release of the Adidas Terrex trail shoes. So that's one of many projects I've been working on. But then also, this was now a year ago, decided that making product that works for the athletes and that has the smallest negative impact on our planet is my purpose that I at some point want to go back to. Now this marketing experience definitely helps me to get there, and it's fine for now, and it allows me to work remotely, and I can do all these beautiful things. But I also don't want to forget that part of me that screams, I want to create products that makes people enjoy their time outdoors even more. So yeah, now I'm studying sports science and added some material science courses to it, and a few business innovation courses as well. And right now, and I think this is why you brought this up. You probably saw on social that I'm writing my master thesis, for which I develop a shoe for a Olympic discipline. That I don't want to talk about what it is, to be honest, right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm creating the shoe by myself. I use my kitchen at home to bake my own carbon and make a carbon sole.
That's amazing.
in my mom's oven. Thanks, Mom, for allowing me to do that. So yeah, I taught myself how to make carbon, which was a nice journey. And now the next step will be to give this shoe to an athlete and try to measure if there's any performance enhancement that the athlete gains when using my prototype versus the commercial shoes out there. It's a discipline that is related to the outdoors, and brands have very much neglected this discipline. So we have athletes out there who dedicate years of their life to this discipline and don't really have a piece of footwear that is made for what they dedicate years of their life to. And I thought this is very unfair, and someone needs to do something about it. And if no one does, then I will. Yeah.
It's fascinating. I mean, there's so much there. Yes, thank you for kind of summarizing all of this. Let's start with that. When you're producing a product, you have to look at so many different facets. The environmental aspect is one, and it is increasingly coming at the forefront and becoming a priority. But obviously, you're mentioning also the balance with it actually needs to perform, right? It needs to be something that it makes the athlete better, or at least needs to be just as good as the other product. You also need to find a marketing niche, right? You're saying you're not going into an overcrowded market. You need to find sort of an area where you can sort of find the niche in all of this. I mean, there are a lot of different facets to consider, and in some respects, I mean, how do you even find the time for all of this?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to what do you love doing, you know? Of course, I find time for running and all the other beautiful things in life, but I think I've decided very early in my life that just being, and this goes back to the identity conversation that we had earlier. I decided very early in my life, in my professional sports career, that being an athlete alone is not what gives me the full fulfillment of life. And there's so many other things that I also want to do and excel in and explore and learn and do and experience. And I think for these things, you almost always find energy and time for. Sometimes it does get tricky, to be honest, and sometimes the easiest task like somewhat overwhelm me because like it's just a little bit too much at some points. But yeah, overall, I think what I do right now will help me to have an even better and fulfilling life in the future, and also do good, you know, like I just don't want to like perform well because like if I don't win a race, then someone else win, you know, like this doesn't really bring us as a human race any further. Hopefully maybe like some guys out there following me Instagram or meeting me in real life are somewhat inspired by the training that I do and the race performance that I deliver. And that's great. And I really hope that's the case. But also I want to like create something, a product probably in my case that like pushes the experience of the human race a little bit further and all this with causing as little negative impact on the planet as possible. This is a little bit, I think, where I'm going, and where maybe on the 18th, 19th, or 20th time I visit your podcast, we will be able to talk about like what kind of awesome product I've been hopefully building and why it is so much more sustainable than the other products out there.
Yeah. Do you have, I mean, you're currently sort of in the experimenting phase. Do you have sort of a go-to market strategy? I mean, you don't have to say what it is necessarily, but do you think about, I mean, especially when you come from marketing and especially with your connections to Adidas, do you sort of foresee when the product is ready to be produced and bought by consumers, do you sort of foresee that path to what that can look like?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it all started with a sports scientific idea, right? Like for this discipline, what does the perfect footwear look like? This is how it all started. But of course, like the marketing idea has been drilled into my mind for many years of my life, and obviously if you actually do find something that might be so much better than everything else that is currently on the market, you can't stop about also thinking like what can be done with this concept. And for this very product category, it's a little bit tricky because like I said, it's like a super niche market or product, and I think also, you know, I already told you like there's carbon involved, so it's a very, very specific and very, very expensive product to produce, that it's a little bit tough to find like a business model behind it. I mean, maybe if it really is such a superior product at the end, maybe you can like sell the concept to all the brands out there and make shoes for their Olympic athletes, and then like brand the prototype with this or that brand depending on who your client for this and that athlete is. Or maybe you can find like a rental system that you can somewhat build on. But yeah, this is for a future Macy to think about. For now, it's only what does the perfect product for this sports look like, and how can the athlete, or hopefully many athletes, benefit from the concept I'm putting together.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It's glad that you have that long vision and the patience and the time to be able to say, I really want to develop a good product and not, you're not building a business and money is pouring out of your
Mm.
through your hands and you're like, oh, I gotta rush this product to market. You have the time to say, I want this to be a long-term project. I'll want to make sure that it's good, and then I'll worry about the next phase, while at the same time gaining all the experiences of launching, a brand new shoe in Chamonix, doing UTMB week, right? I mean, you know how to activate, you know how that part
Mhm.
works. You have the business relation. Well, let's talk a little bit about trail running shoes. Is the new Adidas shoe the greatest thing since sliced bread? Is it the killer shoe? I've not seen it myself. I've not been in Chamonix, so I don't know. When is
I
it
haven't
coming
seen
out?
it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've
yeah,
seen
no,
it in pictures, but I mean, I've
okay,
not like
okay.
ran with it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So for the ones that maybe haven't seen it or are not exactly clear what we're talking about, so it's this orange shoes with this super duper thick midsole, slightly off white, and has like this crazy rocker shape. So you have a heel and a toe spring, So like it's shaped like a banana, almost like a super thick banana, and what's special about it are a couple of things. So the probably the biggest difference is the midsole foam, which is the one that all the super shoes for like the road running shoes also use. So it has a super high energy resilience, meaning whatever you put in, you get back on your toe off. It's super cushy, meaning that on the downhills or even on the flat runs, your legs don't fatigue as much because the muscle micro vibrations are reduced, and the impact that basically just running has on your body is minimized. So that's the foam, and it's also very light, the foam. And then what else do you have? You have the energy rods in the midsole. So they like basically like keep the whole thing in shape while you put weight, your body weight, during the landing on it. So they're also supposed to give you even further or even more energy back in the toe off. And yeah, you combine this with a super lightweight upper, breathable, lightweight, non-soaking, and yeah, then you have the Adidas Terrex Agravic Speed Ultra. It's a very long name, but that's how it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've probably seen it somewhere. It's like this orange.
I mean, Tom Evans ran it at Western States, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
how.
Tom Evans. So he was very much the co-creating athlete, and he's been using it for a long time. I think the first prototypes he wore were even Western States the year before, which also means like at Lake Sonoma he had also worn it. So yeah, he's been wearing those shoes for a long time. Other athletes from Terrex were then supplied with them maybe a year ago or something. Like it's been a process. But yeah, since UTMB this year, every athlete was Adidas Terrex athlete obviously was able to wear it, and we gave the first few hundred pairs away in Chamonix, and commercially available all around the planet. It should be, I think, this spring, like in a month or two from now, I guess.
Fantastic. Cool.
Yeah,
So
and
you personally, do you wear that shoe? Is this your shoe?
yes, I mean it's supposed to be a shoe made for rather fast trails. Like stack height is very high, so you might or might not feel like a sense of instability on super technical trails. But still, the advantages of the foam and its weight and its resilience and so on still make it a very good shoe for me on much more technical terrain. So I even wore those shoes at last year's German skyrunning championships and performed good for for my situation. So with that shoe that is supposed to be performing well at Western States and so on. So I guess what I'm saying is that the range of that you can use the shoe for is slightly bigger than for me anyways than you might expect when looking at the shoe for the first time.
Yeah. What is the sort of expected mileage kilometers that you get out of a shoe like that?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, here on the volcanic island of Gran Canaria, it's a little bit shorter. If you wear it during sky races, then of course it's shorter. And that's the great thing about this foam as well. It's made of TPU and not EVA, which means that the cushy properties of the foam are maintained for a much longer time compared to former midsoles, which in most cases is what kind of makes you throw away your trail running shoes, right? The midsole is just like completely worn out or even cut or whatever. So that doesn't happen as much. And the upper is also like very strong and a little bit protected by the midsole, just because the midsole is so high, the stack height is so high and like wraps around the upper, so the upper doesn't get like cut as quickly as on some other shoes that I've worn before. And the outsole is like, it doesn't have like this low number of outsticking lugs, but it's like a little bit more of a gravel road bike inspired outsole, I want to say, which also doesn't wear out as much. So I guess on some of the shoes I've probably ran, I want to say 600K.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, now if I wear them in Innsbruck and I just run on the snow, then they basically like hold up forever, because snow is soft and nothing can cut your shoes, and you get this additional cushioning from the snow and so on. And also with this soft snow, you don't wear out your outsole. So probably on the snow they could even do a 1000K, maybe I don't know, but a 600 I've definitely done on some pairs.
Super. What's the price for those? Do you know?
I'm not so sure. I mean, the shoe still isn't out there, so it can change. But I think it's north of 250 euros.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one of those like super shoe type category shoes.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, super. Well, it's going to be exciting to see when it finally hits, because the hype around the shoe has been very, very big, right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And I want to sort of like transition a little bit and talk about your activation in Chamonix. It's interesting that brands strategically and from a marketing point of view use the UTMB Chamonix sort of platform to release new products while they themselves aren't actually sponsors of the event, right? And it creates almost sort of a secondary event where UTMB's communication is all very tight and controlled, and we only talk about our sponsors and stuff contractually agreed upon, right? But there's so much happening in Chamonix throughout that week. I mean, I'm going to be there this year, so I'm asking very personally. How does it feel like being in Chamonix during that week? And how does one get to hear about all of these other events that are happening when UTMB themselves wouldn't, talk about it, right? I mean, how do you hear? Do you just have to know about it on social media?
I don't know. Well, I guess there's many communication streams. Of course, like brands will like print out pieces of information and like put it on walls or like
Amazing
flyers and so on. So this traditional way of doing marketing, of course, still exists. Then obviously, yes, social media. Brands use the channels of their athletes too to even reach more people, right? So this is done very successfully. And then don't underestimate in the trail running community. Don't underestimate like word of mouth. Word of mouth. Is that how you call it? Yeah. So I mean, like all of us, we have a couple of friends that will be in Chamonix, and I'm very glad that you will be one of them. And I finally get to meet you in person if it doesn't happen earlier this year. But yeah, of course we will be there, and we will, like hang out or like have a burger or a beer or a pizza or both. And we will talk about it, like, have you heard, like, Terrex is like giving away 100 shoes for free. Like, let's get in line and get one pair. And then, like Hoka is doing, or the North Face is doing like a community run, and Debo will be there. Let's do this and let's do that. And yeah, this is at the end why we go there, right? It's not only like 4 races that happen like once and then you go home, but it's the global trail running community coming together and having fun, hanging out, and other brands, not only the main or maybe even more so other brands than the main sponsor, adding to this experience, which is great.
Yeah, which works really well because Chamonix, as a mountain town with a big history of tourism and creating these outdoor events, is well situated for that. Like, you're not having to travel far, right? I mean, if you hear about an event, you can just walk down the street to the event. You don't
Exactly.
have to head into a car and drive 45 minutes. It all happens in Chamonix during that week. So you're going to be in Chamonix that summer, but you yourself are not going to be racing.
No, I decided not to be racing any race at UTMB or this year, even if I'm already qualified. But yeah, I don't think I have to run this race like every single year, and I've done so in the last couple of years. And this year I want to do some other races instead. Yeah.
Is this a decision of just wanting to expand sort of your horizon and experience something else, or is this a response to this growing sort of negative feeling around UTMB?
Yeah, I guess there's a multitude of reasons for that. Me like finally wanting to race another race that I always wanted to do at the same time, which is Matterhorn Ultrax. Finally going there definitely plays a role. Me having raced OCC a couple of times definitely plays a role. But also me being a little bit critical of what UTMB does definitely also plays a role. But on the other hand, I'll be in Chamonix and experience everything that UTMB and others are putting together. So I guess I shouldn't talk too loudly about how critical I am about everything that UTMB does. In any way, like I would never like make someone feel bad for running UTMB. I can understand that you want to race it. I can understand that, looking at the email from between Kilian and Zach, I think no one would ever be mad at Zach at giving it another try, to possibly even win. I'm saying you can freely choose the race that you do want to go to. If you ask me, and I will most likely race OCC or CCC or UTMB at some point in the future again. But just this year, UTMB will happen. No, it will not happen without me, because, like I said, I'll be there and soak up everything and just experience the the week of excitement without the pressure of the race, which is also cool. Yeah.
I mean, this is, I think, for me, but number one, it's a very healthy and mature perspective. Thank you. But also, I think it speaks to the disjointed reality that people are sort of portraying on social media, saying that UTMB is already this monopoly that owns everything, right? I mean, I think it's fine to have criticism, but to your point, there are so many other events that are happening, that are out there, that are worth experiencing. And especially if you've run it a couple times, it's like, it's good to say, hey, why don't I experience something else, right?
Yeah.
There are beautiful events out there. There are beautiful locations to run in. And you shouldn't feel the need to limit yourself to always only run the same race, especially because, I mean, it is long distance ultra running. You can't just run 30 races a year, right? I mean, there
Exactly,
is a
yeah.
reality that if you focus on one event, then you have to give up on others. So there is a certain prioritization that needs to happen, right?
I totally agree, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, especially in the Alps, there's so many great events and there's so many great places to come and experience trail running and experience the outdoors and being with other people and experience a different race organization, a different atmosphere and stuff. And so I think it's good to expand the horizon and not let yourself get shoehorned. And it's good to also to see that you have the flexibility, right? That you don't feel like your sponsor forces you to always be at that one starting line, right? That you have that freedom.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't work anyways, right? Like, if you feel the needs or the pressure to go somewhere and perform well, you won't, like you need to be inspired by the race. You need to be motivated by like higher reasons than just your sponsor telling you to go there and perform, like that wouldn't work. Like you really need to want to race strong there.
Yeah. Were you are a part of the PTRA? Were you part of that call yesterday? Did you listen in between UTMB and the Pro Trail Running Association?
I have to admit, despite me being a PTRA member, I did not join that call because, like we said earlier, like I'm very busy and like I can't always like go to every call and make everything happen, which isn't bad at all because I know that, like Albert and Francesco and everyone else on that association is doing this fabulous job of reminding UTMB that this whole thing doesn't work without us athletes. And that's great that some people put and these guys, especially I think those two that I just mentioned, they put a whole lot of energy into this and they do a very, very great job. And I'm very thankful for them, these two and all the others doing all this. But yeah, I try to like keep up with everything that's being discussed and where this whole thing goes. But yeah, like we all know, it's very, very complicated and complex and yeah.
No, I hear you. Well, let's talk about something happier. Let's talk about skyrunning and let's talk about your summer plans. You mentioned a race that you're going to be doing that sort of fits into the same time frame. What else is on your calendar for the year?
Man, this year is going to be long. So I start already in February, like we already know, here on Gran Canaria for the 46K. Then March, there will be the Sky Snow World Champs again for the second time. So I'll be going there with the German team. Then in April, I'm not so sure. There's like two ways this whole thing could be going. But there will be at least one race in April. Basically May, June, July, August, I stay very local. I don't really want to travel anywhere. I'll be staying in Innsbruck and go and race some races in the surroundings of Innsbruck. Zugspitz Ultra, I'll be going back to a slightly longer distance there, I decided. In Ötztal, I want to be racing again, maybe in Pitztal again. I really enjoyed those races. Like very, very close to Innsbruck, not needing to travel anywhere and pack lots
I
of
mean,
bags
it's the summer in the Alps. Why would you need to
exactly. Why
travel,
would you?
right?
Yeah, exactly. Where else would I want to be? Yeah. It's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Yeah. So this is basically May till beginning of August. Then August, end of August, Matterhorn Ultrax. Then I'll be going to Chamonix to at least be around the UTMB circus. And then September, Infinite Trails, of course. And then I'll be going to Cappadocia to run there. Never run there, so I'm very excited to join the team on that trip. What they did last year there looked like a lot of fun, so I definitely want to go there. And yes, then of course I'm going to give UTCT 100K another try. Like I didn't toe the start line last year, so obviously I will come back this year and do this thing.
As the Germans would say, you still got an invoice open, right?
Yes, we've got an invoice open. Yes.
That's fantastic. So, no sky races on the calendar. What do you think
Oh no!
of this?
Sorry, yeah, no. Of course. So Matterhorn Ultrax is a sky race.
Yeah.
Also the Skyrunning World Series. Then one of the races around Innsbruck I talked about in July will be Kaiserkrone Sky Race, also World Series, and again German Skyrunning Championship. And then a Sky Race in Naturns in April if I'm not going elsewhere. And I'm grossly forgetting one Sky Race now that I will also go to.
You mean Beast of Big Creek to come out here to
yes,
Washington.
I definitely still need to come to at least one of your races. But it seems like and maybe this has to do with the fact that when it's great in the States, like weather-wise, then it's also great in the Alps weather-wise. So it seems like the States are for 2024 again not on the list. Maybe next year though.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I'll have an entry for you ready and waiting. No worries. What do you think of this new sort of, skyrunning? I talked with the Skyrunning Federation folks. They sort of gave the World Series to a third-party company. I don't quite know the details, but they're sort of managing this, and they brought Marcel in as sponsor. It feels very cohesive and organized and structured. Do you feel like they're on a good path? How do you feel how this is all shaping up?
Yeah, so it was always Skyrunning World Series on one hand, and then the International Skyrunning Federation on the other. So International Skyrunning Federation, they listen to their national federations that basically make all the decisions for them. There's basically no money to be made as this federation. Of course, it's a federation. They're not even allowed to make money. So this is always on one hand side, and then the Skyrunning World Series always was on the other side, organized by different people. But of course, like they talk, and now it's a Skyman that does this whole thing for them. They used to be Swiss owned, and now I think Skyman is. I don't want to talk rubbish now, but I think it's Chinese. Okay. Chinese investors involved. I think. And yeah, I think like I'm a big fan of skyrunning, and having them being backed by by some sponsors might be a good thing, to also make sure that this other monopole that we talked about isn't getting too strong, and I think they're on a good path. I have to honestly say that, like a couple of years ago, skyrunning did better. Like I want to say 2010 or whatever, like skyrunning was, when you were talking about the skyrunning world, or the trail running world championship, or the trail running world series, you were actually talking about whoever won skyrunning, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that's my personal feeling, I think. But so this has faded a little bit, because there are other players on the playing field and so on. But I still feel that the community around skyrunning is still very much the same, in the game for a long time already. And yeah, it's like a little bit neater, more familiar than what UTMB does. But yeah, that's a good thing also, right?
Yeah, it is an interesting. If you look at it on a macro scale, it's interesting that we have all these race series that are popping up, and for us as individual runners, perhaps even on an elite level, right? You're not committing to one race series. You find races that you find beautiful, that you want to run in beautiful locations, and you don't really exclusively run this one series, right? There isn't the incentive there yet. I don't know if it would be financial. I mean, if they would offer $1 million, perhaps you would change your mind, right? And perhaps at some point the incentive becomes exclusively financial, but the incentive to fall in line and only run one race series isn't really there. It's more of like, hey, I want to have a race calendar for the year. I want to find beautiful races. This is what I'm signing up for, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, so I'm trying to run 4 skyrunning World Series races this year, just so that I'm also listed on the official ranking, or I have a chance to be listed somewhere on top. For Golden Trails, it would be the same thing. If you don't run so and so many races, then you won't be doing good in the overall ranking. For some that is a incentive, or like a goal worthwhile to pursue. This year I'll try to do that. But yeah, just because also on the, like, if you ask me, on the Skyrunning World Series calendar, there's just amazing races that inspire me a lot and that I wanted to do anyways, and being listed on top of that or somewhere in that ranking is a nice added benefit, but not necessarily why I do that. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I think it works sort of as a marketing vehicle to say, hey, we've got these races, but there's not really the demand there yet to really exclusively run these events, right?
Yeah,
What do you think?
But for some, sorry, but for some there is, right? Like if you need your running stone so that you have a good chance of being drawn in the UTMB lottery, then you will need to run basically as many races, and this is their business model, right? Then you have to run as many races as you possibly can from the UTMB World Series.
Right, exactly. And it gets really messy with that, right? Because for you as elites, where you could potentially direct qualify, one race might be enough, right? I mean, if you can find a race on the calendar that doesn't have big starting field, you could just come in the top 3 and you qualify, right?
No, I mean, it's even easier than that. Like depending on what gender you are, and if it's a continental major or a regular race, you just have to run like a specific, and what kind of distance you want to go for at UTMB. You just have to run in parentheses. You just have to run a specific amount of UTMB points, and then you have your qualification. For males running the OCC, that's the highest amount of points that you would need. I think it's 830 right now.
That's the index, right?
Yeah, that's the index. Yes, sorry.
And that index you could get on races other than UTMB races, right? I mean,
No.
Beast of Big, yes.
Yes, you get the points.
You get your index, yeah.
You get your index, fine. But in order to qualify for the world final, which is UTMB in Chamonix, you have to run those 830 points at the World Series.
Oh, at the World Series. You see, this is like one angle that I don't even pay attention to it. Yeah. I probably should, because I'm running really fast right now. I'm kidding. What do you think of the Olympics and trail running and the idea of UTMB, France in general is huge in trail running, and Paris is going to be hosting the Olympic Games, right? I think that there is a big focus among the French business people in our sport and seeing how how trail running can become an Olympic sport. How do you feel about it? Is that something that interests you, both from a personal, as an athlete point of view, but also from a business point of view? How do you feel about the idea? It's not clear that it's going to happen.
I mean, as an athlete, obviously you think, or not obviously, no, I don't want to say that, because obviously some also fear that, like this is like taking the commercialization, right, of the sport to yet another level, which might come with certain dangers, right, of us forgetting what the core of the sports is. So that's an argument on one side, but on the other side, I feel like this could be another way for us as athletes to make a living from the whole sport. Now it's only brands really giving us any money to live from, while on the world athletics sports or the Olympic sports, be that 10,000 meter running or marathon running, the runners get all the support from the national track association, which is very interesting, and could enable more of us to live from this whole thing, and that would be great. And then, I mean, the Olympics are one of the top 3 platforms for sports. So I also think that elevating my baby of trail running to that stage is really, really cool, and just shows that other people will be inclined, hopefully, to join that sport and to experience it. And so, I think for me personally, all pros and cons considered, I think it would be really great. And from a business point of view, I would also be very much interested in seeing what kind of trail running format would be accepted by the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, because running 100 miles in remote areas of the Alps or any other mountain range will probably not be it. Because on TV, it just, there's Jim Walmsley and Kylian Jornet running 2 hours ahead of everyone else, and Courtney Dearwater doing the same. So I think, and it takes 24 hours or 20 hours or whatever. So I don't think 100 miles will be the format that would ever be Olympic. I think it's a different format where race time is shorter, where the possibility to cover the whole event by camera and put it out there is also much more easier for the race director, and also more attractive for people to watch.
Mhm.
And I think that's the kind of format we would need to think in order to have a chance to make it Olympic. And if I could ever play a role in that kind of trail running concept and putting that together, then I think that would be a really nice challenge for me personally.
Yeah. I mean, it is a fascinating opportunity to see, as much as you're pointing out. There's obviously danger with growth. There always is, right? There's always the reality. It's not even a danger. The reality is that the sport will somewhat change, and we will definitely get to a place which we're already getting to with the World Championship, and because it's only one race, it's okay that there are specific races that are only for elites, right? Currently, one of the beauty of trail running
True.
is that um you and I can be at the same start lineup, right?
Right.
That there is the possibility of racing together, that an average amateur can sign up with an elite and we have the same experience, right? Where once we get to that Olympic level, we get to a point where we have specific races just for elites. And I think, given the fact that we have tens of thousands of trail races around the world, right? I think I don't feel afraid, right? It's not like specific stadiums need to be built and then they're locked up and they can't play soccer in a stadium, right? I mean, trails happen everywhere. If you can get a permit, if you can get the okay to organize an
Yeah.
event, then you have a trail race, right? And you don't need that big commercial and federation and structure around it. And if the Olympic Games portray this event, then more people will sign up for regular races. More people will get introduced to trail running, as you're saying, right? More people will get to know your baby, your love for trail running, and that is a good thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, cool. I'm glad you agree, because maybe we're going that way, and obviously we only want good things to happen for the sports of trail running.
Yeah. I'm somebody who I like to keep my eyes open, but I'm usually not afraid of new ideas and new opportunity and growth. It's not, I don't feel protectionist and saying, no, nothing should ever change. This is exactly how this ever should happen, right? That's
Yeah.
why I'm so positive about UTMB. I feel like it's exciting what they're trying to do, because at this point they only have a handful of races, right? I mean, if they would own, they're not like a Starbucks that that has 10,000 locations, and the local coffee shop supposedly can't compete with it anymore, right? I mean, they have not even 50 locations. We have race organizations in this country that have more races that they're managing each year nationally in the US than UTMB does globally, right? So the idea that they are somewhat they owned the last week in August, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
spectacle of Chamonix and the challenge of qualification and trying to get people to run this race that everyone wants to run is something that needs to be refined and continue to grow and evolve and stuff, right? But in general, I'm fine with what they're doing, right?
Cool. I'm glad to hear your optimism about it. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also not an elite, and I just got into OCC. So for me, the stone system works perfect, right? I ran two races, DNF'd one, I had 4 stones, and I made it into the lottery the first time. I'm happy.
Wow. They actually put the information out there. I think the
hmm
average of stones invested for a successful draw, I think was it 7?
No, I think it was less. It was, I think, 5 point something or so, right? And then depending on which of the 3 races, right? I think UTMB, the big one, I think required the highest amount of stones,
Right.
and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, the reality is, especially with wanting to run Chamonix, we've got way more people wanting to run this race each year, then they have spots. And it's good that they're not opening up and letting 30,000 people run the event, right? They need to limit it. So therefore, we need a lottery system. And currently, I mean, I come from the US where Western states and hard rock lotteries are shit. I mean, people waiting 8, 10 years to try to get in to run it, right? I mean, it's really, really hard. And it's shit as an experience. They don't know how to do it any better. They have a couple hundred spots and thousands of people want to run it, right? So it is, once you have a lottery system, once you require a lottery system because you have so many more people wanting to run an event, it's going to be difficult to try to figure out how to make this work. And I appreciate UTMB could have said, you know what we're doing? We're only going to do elites. You as amateurs, you can show up and cheer and volunteer, but you're not even going to run anymore, right? They could have done the Boston Marathon thing where if you're not fast enough, right? If you can't run whatever 100K in under whatever 18, 16, whatever hours, don't even apply. And the fact that they still make it possible for everyone, I think for me, as somebody who is slow and just wants to experience that, is amazing, right?
Yeah, that's a very important perspective. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah.
Right. And I also think they have the right to refine their qualification systems when they changed over from the ITRA point system, right? They came out of COVID, they didn't know how, but there were a couple of years where you could qualify with the ITRA system and with the new stone system. And now they're expanding locations. So you don't even know. I don't know how to project out how many stones is a fair amount of stones one needs to have, right? In order to qualify, right? Well, anyway.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting perspective. You're right.
Yeah. Well, there we have it. Marcel, you have given me a lot of your time. I very, very much appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing your story, sharing from the heart, sharing where you're at, your perspective. And I'm very, very excited to share a beer in Chamonix this summer.
Yes, I'm looking forward to this. Matthias, it's always been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Have a great night, and thanks for coming on Singletrack.
Thanks for having me, Matthias. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marcel, for this fun chat. And thank you, dear listeners, for joining us. This is Singletrack, and I see you at Electric Cable Car, electriccablecar.com, for daily trail and mountain news. I'm your host, Matthias Eichler, saying Auf Wiedersehen und Tschüss.